Literally the last thing you could ever expect to hear about Benjamin Franklin. This is a conversation from episode 1852.
Did you ever hear about what Ben Franklin was? Okay, that's a different story. But
What did he do?
you never heard that, like, what he was found in? They found in his house?
No.
Like tons of bodies, bro.
What?
Ben Franklin, they found tons of bodies in his.
Ben Franklin was a serial killer?
No, he was like doing some weird shit, dude. Bodies.
Like experimenting with
yeah,
bodies?
Yeah.
The scary thing is that Tripoli isn't exaggerating. Just look at this photo taken from Ben Franklin's house, where over 1,200 human bones were discovered.
Repairs on Franklin's old London house turned up 1,200 pieces of bone from at least 15 people. Holy shit. For nearly 2 decades. By the way, this is from the Smithsonian. This is not some wacky conspiracy thought.
This ain't samtripoli.com.
Yeah. For nearly 2 decades leading up to the signing of the Declaration of Independence, Benjamin Franklin lived in London in a house on 36 Craven Street. In 1776, Franklin left his English home to come back to America. More than 200 years later, 15 bodies were found in the basement, buried in a secret windowless room beneath the garden.
And look at this. It gets even weirder because these bodies were 200 years old, making it almost a certainty that Franklin was living in the house at the time the bodies were buried. The theories about who the bodies were linked to, however, get even crazier, as Rogan and Tripoli are about to explain.
From a 1 meter wide, 1 meter deep pit, over 1,200 pieces of bone were retrieved. Remnants of more than a dozen bodies at Benjamin Franklin's house were children. Forensic investigation showed that the bones dated to Franklin's day. Holy shit.
Of course, the explanation as to why these bodies were buried beneath Franklin's home gets even weirder because it seems likely that Franklin wasn't just a mass murderer. Instead, listen to what Rogan had to say about it.
The most plausible explanation is not mass murder, but an anatomy school run by Benjamin's young friend and protege, William Hewson. Oh, just an anatomy school.
Yeah, and we're just gonna bury them downstairs.
Okay, anatomy was still in its infancy, but the day's social and ethical mores frowned upon it. A steady supply of human bodies was hard to come by legally, so Hewson, Hunter, and Field's other pioneers had to turn to grave robbing, either paying professional resurrection men to procure cadavers, or digging them up themselves to get their hands on specimens.
This explanation initially seems normal enough, but things get even stranger when you consider Franklin's history as a Freemason. Franklin was a famous Freemason and a very notable member, and it's possible these bodies could have been the result of some Freemason rituals. Listen to what Rogan and Tripoli have to say about this.
You know,
This is a weird note to add in another article about this.
oh boy.
It's just
Franklin's history as a Mason was one of the historian's initial points of inquiry. Though shrouded in secrecy, Masonic rituals have dark, known undercurrents which have at times gone horribly wrong. For example, in a 2004 initiation ceremony, a new member was accidentally shot by a member who meant to fire an empty gun but instead fired a loaded